Today, I'm here to talk to you about finding your passion in business again. My name is Orlando Marrero, and welcome to Studio 954. Do you know I've been talking about this day for over maybe 2 years? I've been talking about sitting here, talking to you for over 2 years. And finally, I am here. And this happens to be episode 2. The first one I've done not too long ago, and I just literally, after I filmed it a few months ago, I uploaded just recently. And that was my reason why I decided to create Studio 954. And today is episode 2, where I'm sharing something very personal and very real to me, something that actually happened to me. It's about finding your purpose, your passion for your business again. Unfortunately, after building a very successful business over the years, I kind of lost my passion. I lost my focus. And today, I want to share with you the positive, when the times were good, and the disaster of what happened when I lost my focus and my passion. So thank you for being here at Studio 954 with me. I hope that I can share with you something that will make a difference in your life, something that would touch your heart. And maybe some of you are going to find yourself in this place, whether it's where you lost your passion, or maybe you're just getting back to finding your way back to your business. Maybe you're at the place where you're just starting a business, and maybe this could be like a forewarning for things that can actually happen to you. So I hope that I can bring some light into this subject. So finding your passion again. Like I said, I'm Orlando Marrero from Studio 954, and I'm here to tell you and share with you the story. After I had much success in my business, in my store called Bath Trends, after building it with my heart and my passion, and it was me that was here on a daily basis, making sales and talking to my customers and building the idea and the way things would flow. It was me, my heart, my ideas, my time. I had a very small staff at the beginning. I remember I didn't even have countertops in our workstation. But that was the beginning of the business, and it was exciting. And building that excitement and watching the sales grow monthly. I remember the first month that we opened, it was like a $30,000 in sales in our store. And we were like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then the second month was like 60,000, and then it went to like 70,000. And I built a business that I was selling over 100 on an average, maybe 130, 150 a month on an average. And I got to a point where I hired staff, and I had this whole thing going on, and I was having a good time. I was having money. I didn't have any kind of debt in the business. Every money that came in, as money came in, I would spend it right into the business, and I would take care of myself. I'd take care of my family. I would, do different things and travel, and I was having a good time. Success was definitely present. I remember we started having months that were selling like over 200,000, and those were really good times. And I had kind of like, I had a pretty golden business. And my sales will kind of go up. I have this graph that I remember always looking at, and the graph would show the beginning stages and all the ups and downs and things like that. And it was exciting. And I remember building this place and being excited about it. But then somehow I stopped watering what was, taking care of me and taking care of the people around me. I started to kind of have, employees working when I wasn't around, and I started to kind of put my eyes on construction projects, and I then hired a manager, and I brought family to work for me and stuff like that, and it just the store just lost that heartbeat that it had when I was around. And my customers, knew it and felt it. And as I noticed that as I was, rising, my reviews would go up, and I would get all these positive reviews. And then when I wasn't around anymore, reviews kind of just paused, And I noticed that, and I got busy with just other things. I started to pursue more real estate and more construction projects and things like that. Now I was so busy doing renovations that my store was alive, it was working and all this stuff, but it just wasn't the same. The sales that were climbing over 200 started to dwindle down to 170 and 160 and 150 and 130,000. And I was so wrapped up into all the other things that I was doing. In the back of my mind, I knew that the business was hurting, yet I was so chasing these other ideas and these other passions that I had to kind of like figure out how to juggle both, And all of a sudden I was very busy. I was busy chasing $1 million here and losing $1 million here. At the end of the day, it really got to me. That it got to my frustration, and I started to not even like my business anymore. I didn't even like the ones I was chasing either, because I started to find that, as I was growing in construction, I took a construction company from whatever, $15,000 a month to over, 1.7 million in a year. And here I had a business that was selling 2 million and over, and I was now losing that to gain this one. So all this distraction, where I probably just could have stayed in that one place that started to feed me and started to, to really allow me to grow. I should have just stayed there, and I should have just watered that one business. Instead, like I said, I was distracted. The distraction cost me a lot of time. And again, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just my mind that is always like wanting to do something new. I don't know if it was ego. I don't know if my timing was bad. I don't know. Maybe I just want more, too many times. I don't know what it was at the time that just drove me to pursue all these other things. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't pursue other dreams, but you should not pursue those other dreams until the one that you already have is in a stable place, at a place where it's functioning, whether you're there or not. And I think that was my mistake. I took my hands off of something that was not stable yet. Maybe I didn't have the right team at that time. And I brought in, maybe not the best manager for the situation. And I was told that a few times, and I hope she never sees this, because she'll probably know who I'm talking about. But, it is what it is, right? If I take on a job, I have a responsibility to take that job and do it the right way, especially if I'm being paid, right? So, whatever. If you see it, you see it, but it is what it is. I probably did not make the best decision at the time, and I didn't have the right players in place. And that just kind of kept haunting me as I knew I was losing business on one end and losing money on one end to try to make $1 on the other side. It was just like killing me on the inside. And it cost me a lot of time, a lot of frustration, a lot of sleepless nights. And I don't even know if it helped cost me my relationship. I have no idea. Maybe I worked too much, and maybe all that hurt and that frustration that I was feeling, maybe that's when things started to go wrong in my own relationship, in my own marriage. So getting your eye off the ball of the things that you should be focused on, has its consequences. And besides the financial stress that it started to cause me, and the physical and mental stress that it started to cause me, knowing that, you know, here it was to get back to fix things was a complicated situation, and I didn't even know the way back, to be honest. So I was wrapped up in so many construction projects that when I took on a job of a client, I had to complete the job. And some jobs they were complete renovations of houses that, you know, could have been 3,000 square feet, doing bathrooms and kitchens and floorings and closets and all kinds of stuff that sometimes kept me there a year. A year in one job. You know the frustration that is? Sometimes I was there 6 months on a condo renovation simply because the elevators didn't work, or the holidays. I mean, the frustration that I couldn't get out of these projects so I can get back to the one place I should have never left. That one business that if I would have just stayed focused, I could have taken it from 2 million to 4 million to 5 million. I could have just stayed in one place, focused. And I hope that whoever gets to listen to this message, if you're in business and you have a good thing going on, I hope that you focus on that business and you stay right there, feeding it and watering it. And do not be distracted until, I don't want you to be distracted, but do not turn your eyes from it until that baby is running smooth, until you know you have people, the right people in place, the right process. That's what needs to happen when you have a business that's a good business. Like I mentioned, I share with you these graphs that I remember my numbers, and I remember having money in the bank. I remember the business was in positive, the bank account was in positive. I can literally, you know, just jump on a plane and take a nice trip with the family or friends, and there was some freedom. But as financial stress started to get me, as the market changed, and you know that we've been through a lot of stuff. Let's not even mention COVID, because that's a ridiculous time. Not a time I believe in, by the way. So, but that's politics, and let's not get into that. That was a ridiculous time that really cost me a lot of stress and pain in my business. Here I knew that I had to get back to the one place that was working, and that I happened to cause and ruin. You know, I ruined it, but I ruined it to the point where, you know, I was even selling the business, and even contemplated taking an offer for a quarter of what it was worth. That's how painful it was at the time. That's how painful. I was willing to sell a business that was worth, you know, way over maybe, you know, $2 million. I was willing to sell it for $300,000. That's how ridiculous things got. So thank goodness that somehow God, in his mercy for me, allowed me to find some light in that tunnel. And I'm actually standing before you today in the actual building of where my business is. So when I came back to the business after my sales went from over a few $1 million to, you're not going to believe it, for just 2 years ago, last year was actually 900,000. Can you believe that? I mean, that's really terrible. I came back into the business just 6 months ago. Within the 6 months, sales are completely up. Things have turned around and going this way, the way they used to be. And what used to be, what was $30,000 a month, that's how I got the business back, by the way. It's terrible month. But I fired some people and I came back into the business, and sales are over 100,000 again. And you know what? They're climbing to 200. And the new goals are way, 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 way different than what they were before. I do have one good player in place with me. I still need another one, if anybody's looking. But I'm here, and I found my passion again for this place. Since I've been back, I've taken my 4,000 square foot building, and I've finally, after 15 years, I saw the opportunity. The building next door that's attached to my building came available, and I leased it, and I renovated the place, and I added 6,000 square foot to my business. So I went from 4,000 square feet in just less than 6 months to 10,000 square feet. And now I have this office where I actually enjoy spending time after work, not during work, but after work. I come up here and I spend time, and this is where I'm filming, at Studio 954, my new studio, where I will be sharing messages with you and people that are like-minded. We'll share things about business, which is what we're talking about today. We'll share about personal growth, which is something very important for me, you know, staying in shape and eating healthy and mindset. You know, without that, we can't just show up to work correct, you know? We need to show up to work correct. So the mornings is super, super, super important to get started correct, you know? Going to bed, getting up, you know, thanking God that you awaken, that He allowed you to wake up. You know, for me, I'll just get down on my knees and say, thank you, Lord. You know? I go straight to the gym, get my nice workout out, because that just makes you feel so much better. Especially when you're in business, you need to take care of your body. When you take care of your body, you just can handle things much better. You know, you can handle anything comes at you, you know, whether it's a crazy customer that day, you know, whether it's a delay or whether somebody didn't show up. It doesn't matter. When you feel good inside, and, you know, you just handle things different. You're more in control. So personal growth is really important. And the third topic that for me I'm very passionate about is fatherhood. You know, after my separation, you know, I realized, wow, you know, most important thing that I have going on is my son. You know, my son. That's one of my things that I have to get right. I only get one chance at that, you know that? To get it right. You know, I can build a business and fail and start over again. I've done that. You know, I've had multiple businesses, and some of them were great and some of them sucked. You know? Right now I run 3 different companies. And they're all doing great, by the way. Why? Because I'm present. Because I got that fire, that passion again. Right? But there's that one thing that I can't get wrong, and that is being a father. To be a father, you got to be present. You got to be available. So that means you have to have control of your time. To be a father, you got to put aside all the differences with the mom. You know that. You know, my son's mom happens to be fantastic. And maybe, you know, the issues that were present at the time, I cannot say that it was really her. You know, there's a few things I don't like about her, but there's so much more that she has that's amazing. But you know, I didn't get that right. I didn't get the relationship right? But the relationship with my son, that has to be right. And that's why I chose to discuss these 3 topics. Because there's so many men out there, single men or fathers, who are overworked and are not making time for their kids. There's men out there who need to know when to, you know, close that office door and shut the lights down and call your child and say, hey, get dressed, we're gonna get together tonight, you know? There's men out there who are working and not taking care of their bodies and their mind. They're sitting there in that chair, they don't have the strength to do 10 push-ups. You know what that body feels like when you can't even do 10 push-ups? It's not a good place to be. So my message to you is, no matter where you're at, whether you're down on your business and feeling kind of lost and don't have that passion anymore, you can find that passion. You can find a way back, as I did. The blessings that come from finding your passion again are immense. The blessings that come from taking care of your body, anyone can tell you that health is everything. And the blessings that you feel today of taking time to be a real dad, and the blessings that it will give you in the future, no one can ever tell you how great that's going to be, because you have to live it. So my comeback is to me really powerful, because for 1 minute I thought that, you know what, I'm just going to sell this place and I'm just going to move on to the next thing. But I'm so glad I'm here, and I'm so glad I'm expanding, and I'm so glad I started this project, that I can share my personal things with you. This is Studio 954, and I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, it would be great if we stay connected. You can do that by continually following me so that we could, bring some more messages. My next episode, which will be episode 3. Can you imagine that? I talked about doing this so long ago. Now I'm talking about episode 3. Episode 3 is about, have you ever felt like slapping yourself? That's my title. Today's title is Finding Your Passion for Your Business Again. But soon I will see you and we'll talk about some other things. Thank you for being here. Studio 954, I'm Orlando Marrero, and I remind you to please stay real.